Welcome to this special meeting of the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority. Thank you for being here. This special meeting was called for the sole purpose to review and comment on the proposed City of Buffalo financing for the 2021 capital program. All directors and staff have unmuted lines. Please state your name before commenting. The lines for members of the public are muted. The lines for representatives of the city are unmuted, and they can participate and address questions as we proceed with the meeting. At this time, I will ask Nikita Fortune to indicate who from the city are on the call.
Good afternoon. I see on our call we have Deputy Comptroller Delano Dowell. I see someone identified as Richard Calipari. I'm not sure.
This is Greg Szymanski.
Okay, thank you.
Richard Calipari. He hasn't been there in 10 years.
Okay, that's a new one to me. That is.
We don't update our lines very often. And this is Donna Estrich is the mayor.
Donna's here with the mayor's office, and that is all as far as representatives from the city.
Okay,
Excuse
thank
me,
you.
City of Buffalo Comptroller Barbara Miller-Williams is on the line.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure. I didn't hear you when we restarted the call. Thank you so much for identifying yourself.
Thank you for coming on. Before we begin, I will request Fred to take a roll of the directors.
Thank you. Chair Olson.
Present.
Interim Vice Chair Jerzyk.
Present.
Secretary Floss is here. Director Sanfilippo.
Here.
Okay. Mayor Brown.
Present.
Okay. County Executive Poloncarz.
I'm here.
All right. You have a quorum, Mr.
Thank you very much, Fred. So we'll begin our meeting. The board packet includes the staff report on the proposed financing. Included for convenience are copies of the reports on the capital plan and the pricing differential analysis that we have previously reviewed. This review is being conducted as required by Section 3859 of the BFSA Act, which requires the BFSA to review and comment on the terms of any proposed borrowing, including the prudence of each proposed issuance of bonds or notes. Jeanette will summarize the proposed transactions with us.
Thank you. I will begin with a brief background. Some of these items were mentioned at the March meeting. The BFSA issued debt on behalf of the City of Buffalo from 2004 to 2007. The wage freeze was lifted by BFSA in 2007, and in contemplation of transitioning from a control period into an advisory period, the city had recommenced borrowing, as this was a requirement under the BFSA Act to move into an advisory role. The city has issued all borrowings since that time. With respect to ratings, BFSA's current ratings are AAA stable by Fitch and A1 stable by Moody's. The city's current ratings are A with a negative outlook by Fitch, A+ with a negative outlook by S&P, and A1 stable by Moody's. In terms of classification, these ratings classify BFSA's bonds in the, it's categorized as high to best quality bonds, and the category for the city is in the upper medium grade category. And with respect to the bond rating scale, the difference between the City of Buffalo and the BFSA ratings is 5 steps or notches for Fitch and 3 for S&P. And as we discuss regularly, due to the rating difference, BFSA is able to obtain lower interest rates as compared to the city. An important item is that the BFSA's existence is cited as an important factor in each of the bond rating reports and has been for since BFSA was created, and certain statements have been extracted and included in the staff report that you received on this particular item. With respect to the proposed bond sale, I just want to take a step back for a second and preface that I only have some brief comments. We've already reviewed the capital plan when it was proposed in December and the final capital plan in March, and we have reviewed the pricing differential in detail at the March meeting. So I only have a few more comments to wrap up our review on this particular transaction. So with respect to the 2021 proposed bond sale, the borrowing consists of three separate buckets. The first bucket is the financing of the 2021 capital plan, and this portion consists of the annual, or I should say is sold pursuant to the annual limitation that is provided by the City Comptroller's Office. This limit for 2021 was $20.4 million. The second bucket is carryover dollars that are available from last year, 2020. Due to the bond market instability that existed last year, the city didn't sell a bond last year. Rather, they downsized their sale of a bond anticipation note based on immediate cash needs, and that provided borrowing capacity from last year that could be carried forward into this year, and that's $12.5 million. The last piece is the rollover of the remaining principal on the bond anticipation note that was sold last year, which is $30.9 million. The city last sold a bond in 2018. A bond was sold in 2019 pursuant to a financing model that had been developed by the previous city comptroller in an effort to better time the sale of bonds. We had a pretty robust discussion around that at the time. This financing model has since been discontinued. The total amount being financed is $63.8 million, which is a downsized amount from what was reviewed at our March board meeting, which was $64.4 million. The proposed terms submitted by the City Comptroller's Office on March 29, 2021, and also dated the same day, provided the following estimated structure, and this is outlined for you in a pretty brief summary on page 3 of the staff report. The terms were based on a premium structure with a par amount. I believe it's going to be a premium bond. So it's structured with a par amount of $58.4 million and a premium of $7.7 million, which totals $64.1 million. It was since downsized further in the preliminary official statement, but the $63.8 million amount that I cited before is the correct number, final number. The bond will be sold as a tax-exempt bond. It is structured with level debt service amortization. The average life is 5.420 years. The final maturity date is April 1st, 2032. Estimated cost of issuance are $126,500, which is consistent with what we've seen in the past. And based on an estimated net interest rate of 1.53%, and this is based on the estimate dated March 29th, 2021, so it doesn't factor in any market movements since that time. The total estimated interest cost over the life of the bond is $12.2 million. The repayment source is property taxes consistent with prior years. And that summarizes the general terms of the bond. As discussed at the March board meeting, the pricing differential analysis conducted by our financial advisors in consultation with the city's financial advisors estimated savings of $714,300, which is equal to 5.8% of total estimated interest costs. The city In terms of a recommendation, the city recently sold a refunding bond on March 2nd, 2021 in the amount of $10.9 million, which from a timing standpoint is very close to the timing of the sale of this capital borrowing. Structuring a sale that would include a refunding component would reduce the cost of issuance, as certain costs are duplicated in separate bond issuances. I did request an analysis by the city and what was evaluated or what the determination was made to hold a separate sale, along with a financial analysis of the duplicative costs, but we were not provided that financial analysis. The city did note, as of last week, that a separate sale, it did work to the city's advantage as the bond market moved upward since then and resulted in a estimated interest rate of approximately 15 basis points lower. However, since market movement can't be predicted, it is recommended the city conduct a financial comparative analysis in the future to determine the most cost-effective manner to issue and sell bonds. And that summarizes my comments. I will pass it back to Nils to take questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Jeanette? Well, I have one. Would you run by briefly the reasons that have been given for the city disregarding almost $800,000 savings if BFSA issues the bond, and what informed their decision to go it alone?
Jeanette, you want me to speak to some of it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be great. Thank you.
So we did present it to council. I'm sorry, this is Donna Estrich. We presented it to council. The controller's office did their own analysis, and the amount that they had presented to council, instead of 70, I believe you were saying 70,000 a year savings, it was closer to 40,000, 45,000 a year savings. So council felt that they would like to have that opportunity to, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, disband the control board, because this would extend it to 32. If you bonded, it would go to 32, which is still less than your 2037. But currently the monies that you hold would be paid off in 2025. So they did not want to extend that time. And they felt the smaller amount was not a savings enough to save it. So the mayor withdrew his filing.
Okay, I think in light of that, I don't think anybody's feelings are hurt. It might be timely to comment on the advantages of the existence of BFSA to the city of Buffalo beyond $40,000 a year in bond savings, just off the top of my head. The wage freeze alone is attributed for saving $72 million for the city of Buffalo, $168 million for the school district. This provided a reset for both organizations, and without it, they would have been in serious difficulty, to say the least. The BFSA oversaw the negotiated labor contracts after the lifting of the wage freeze, which included required sweeping changes to reduce future cost increases. Debt issuance savings have totaled $11 million for the city, which continues to have a positive budgetary impact. The existence of the BFSA is cited as a credit positive by each rating agency and has been a contributing factor in the ratings the city has received. And probably doing away with the BFSA would have an impact on the future credit ratings of the city. Additionally, the city prices its bond sales at a lower interest rate than expected from the existing rating. This positive market impact is attributed to the view of investors of the benefit of the existence of the BFSA. BFSA continues to provide potential savings for the city and provided the opportunity this past year to sell the bonds at a lower cost. Those are just some of the advantages. I think it's fair to say that over the term of its existence, BFSA has had a significant and positive impact on the finances of the city. And while the finances of the city look fairly rosy now, thanks to a generous federal package that the mayor quite bravely and correctly anticipated, that's designated for limited spending and would likely leave the city ultimately in the same precarious position with respect to reserves that it would carry forward, since my understanding is that it can't be used to increase the reserves of the city's budget. So I guess since there's been a discussion about the utility of BFSA, it seemed like an appropriate time to at least acknowledge some of the advantages that we bring the city, and we obviously hold ourselves out in the continuing fashion to provide that assistance if it is desired. It's interesting to see how much it's worth that for the council to at least contemplate the demise of the BFSA in terms of the additional taxpayer funds that will be expended. So I guess that's my take on this. Any other comments or questions?
This is Director Floss.
Okay, Fred.
I think there is at least some confusion over bonding and the time limits and connecting the idea that you would not be able to, at the end of the control period, be able to refinance whatever debt was under BFSA, given appropriate legislation that would allow then for this debt to go over to the city, but between now and then, whenever that is, that we wouldn't be able to save a substantial amount of money. So it seems to me, just as a financially prudent way to do that, connecting the two is not maybe necessarily appropriate excuse not to try to save money. So I would think that we do need to rethink the logic behind whether or not it's appropriate to borrow. I understand the goal, and I think, as the chairman has said, we understand that it would be good from a number of perspectives not to have a control board. We've already just talked about the benefits of having a control board, but I don't know that they're necessarily tied to borrowing and therefore forcing the extension of the life of the control board, and I think we should split the two. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, I have. This is Director Jurasek. I have a question to the Executive Director, Jeanette. You referenced, or was it Donna? One of the two of you said that internally, I think it was the comptroller did an analysis and made a presentation to council that the savings to the city, if we offered the bond, would be X, and that differed by maybe considerably to what our projection of the savings were we to offer the bond. Who made that comment? Was it Donna or was it Jeanette?
That was Donna.
Donna or the others, what that was sort of a house internal by employees analysis that the savings would be considerably less than our analysis. And
excuse me, Director, I believe that analysis was done by the city's bond council.
Oh, city's bond council. Okay.
Yes.
I thought it was.
They presented
it. Okay, good. I thought it was city employees. Okay.
No,
okay.
No.
I've got it. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. And the saving was, I remember a number. What was it? $70,000 a year compared to $40,000 a year. Was it something like that?
Yeah.
Well,
sorry,
it was.
Deputy Controller I'm sorry, Deputy Controller Delano Dow. Initially, we know the BFSA had their financial advisors check to see the benefit of the city issuing or the BFSA. So we received those numbers. So then the controller requested our financial advisor to do the same analysis. And the analysis between the two different studies showed, based off our financial advisors, it was savings of between $30,000 to $40,000 a year compared to the $70,000 that the BFSA financial advisor provided. So that information was submitted to council. Council reviewed it, and that was the decision that was made.
Right.
So, now the information wasn't. I've seen what was submitted to. This is Jeanette Robe, Executive Director. I've seen the information that was submitted to Common Council. I didn't fully. What I think is causing a little bit of the discrepancy is when I'm referring to the 700 plus thousand, I'm referring to actual dollars. The analysis that was provided by the City of Buffalo's financial advisor was present value dollars. So there is a bit of a discrepancy in that we're not looking at, buckets, like the same buckets. The present value number for the City of Buffalo of roughly 400,000, I think you said, Delano, would be more comparable to 666,000 was the present value in our analysis. So roughly about probably $20,000 difference a year on average. But either way, I think the amount was significant either way you look at it in total, and it has a compounding effect year to year with issuances, and as we talked about at the March meeting.
Right, Jeanette. The savings has, for a non-expert in this, namely me, the savings across the life of the bond, which includes all of the tangible and intangible. There are no intangibles, but isn't that the more reliable way to compute advantage or disadvantage? That is to say, based on present value across the life of the bond, as opposed to the annual benefit or burden. I think I'm asking. I hope this is commonsensical, separate from being technically accurate. Isn't the more appropriate measure the present value savings across the life of the bond?
I think if you're comparing the total amount, then present value makes a lot of sense to look at, because that's the savings that you'd have today. The number that you're looking at today. From a budgetary standpoint, I tend to go back and forth between the two numbers. I tend to use the actual dollars because those are real budget, the budget impact annually is 70,000. Right. But you're right, 70,000 10 years from now is not equal to 70,000 today, for sure.
This is Andy Sanfilippo. I just want to, I'm playing a little catch up here since it's been a while. But Donna,
yes.
On a budgetary basis, how are we continuing to reduce our budgeted debt service costs on an annual basis?
It's been within a couple millions, yes. This year to next year, we're both at $29 million. Last year, we were at $28.9.
I was saying, like, based on this, this fiscal restraint plan of selling less debt than we're paying down each year. So I'm assuming that the cost of debt service is still going down from that debt service policy. Is that correct?
On an annual basis, it's been, in the last few years, it's been flat, to be honest.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do we have in outstanding or unspent bond proceeds from prior year's bond sales?
I don't have that right in front of me. Deputy Controller, do you have that?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Or Greg?
Yeah, Greg, I don't know if you have the answer or not, but
I don't have the actual number right at the top of my head, Andy, but I could certainly kind of run some stuff, but it'll take me a little bit of time to see what.
Yeah. I just want to know whether or not we're spending what we're borrowing in a timely manner.
There are some projects that kind of linger, to be honest with you, but like I said, I don't have the exact numbers. I know Bryce had asked me for the last two issuances, and I was working on that, but I can certainly get that information, but it'll take a little bit of time.
Yeah, and also I haven't seen the latest statement, but I'm assuming that the outstanding bond proceeds is still trending downward, at least.
Yeah, it's actually, we are doing better at spending quicker. There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
And they've done a nice job of spending down, I think. I think you have to give Public Works, which is the majority of it.
I don't want to see a lot of bond proceeds sitting out there unspent. That's the one observation I was going to make. However, this $27.7 million in authorized but unissued, has there been any discussions within the city relative to perhaps rescinding some of those outstanding bonds?
Yes, we are looking at those.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly with federal stimulus, we're looking at things differently also. So.
And that's the next place I'm going, Donna. Actually now, Jeanette, I'm looking at the package that was dropped off with me, and I certainly appreciate whoever did that. I'm assuming it may be you. The PFM report was dated March 5th. And even though on the packet we got, it says the BFSA pricing differential analysis submitted March 25th. Is there some new information that I'm not aware of?
No, this pricing differential analysis was conducted, I'll back you up a little bit, Andy. In December, the Board of Directors requested that the staff, work with the City Controller's Office and the City Administration to estimate what savings could be if BFSA were to issue a bond on behalf of the City of Buffalo. Something that we've done in the past.
Sure. That
pricing differential analysis was conducted and finalized in early March, but our board meeting was March 25th. So that's what the March 25th date references.
Well, I think one important observation, and I don't know if the rest of the board or the city and certainly the Comptroller's Office agree, I would like to see an updated PFM analysis, especially as it relates to the recently adopted federal relief bill. And more importantly, whether or not, because of the federal relief bill, if there's going to be any impact on the city's credit rating as they go ahead into this bond sale. I'm curious whether or not the city's credit rating might be improved based on the relief package that's been proposed and I'm sure adopted. And again, I'm not an expert on the expenditures, but I would think that somehow projects that relate to infrastructure improvements could be subtracted from the dollar amount of the bond sale, if that's significant or not. But I tell you what, I'm not prepared to act on whether or not we're going to make a decision until we're in the middle of April now, and I would like to see some more updated comparative analysis. And I was going to ask the city for a comment on what they feel PFM's analysis suggests. Donna, you did mention, that they had, 74,000 or 70,000, or the PFM estimated 70,000 per year in savings, and internally, the city. Now, I don't know who did. I don't know if it was bond counsel or your financial advisors or the internal staff of the comptroller's office.
Financial advisor.
The financial advisor did it. So they came up with 40,000. I think those numbers, based on what now has occurred at the federal level, may have a more significant impact on what these numbers show that we're looking at today. And that's just my observation. I'm not the expert, but these are some of the concerns I have. And also, and this I hope doesn't offend anybody, but I would like to see if whoever issues the debt, be it the city or the control board, that we only use one financial advisor and one bond counsel. And I would respectfully submit that even in the event that if the city or if the control board issues the bonds, that we work with the city's bond lawyers and financial advisors, as do all other jurisdictions that have control boards around the state. I think the City of Buffalo Control Board is the only control board that actually has its own bond lawyer, financial advisor, and they also had a team of investment bankers at one point, but now that we're all doing competitive bidding, that doesn't apply. So there's some savings to be incurred at that level.
Excuse me.
That does make sense. Combine them.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi there. I'm sorry for the interruption. This is Comptroller Barbara Miller-Williams. I'd just like to excuse everyone and just ask a simple question. I just need to ask for clarification on the intent of this special board meeting today. As I'm listening intently and trying to figure out, we adjusted our schedule. We came off the Common Council caucus meeting to make sure that we're here. Can someone please tell me specifically what the intent of this special meeting is for, recognizing that due diligence has occurred, the item has gone before the Common Council, is voted, the mayor rescinded his document. We're going to be proceeding and going to the bond market on later this month, around the 15th. So can someone tell me what is the intent of this specific board meeting today?
I believe it's to follow our statutory mandate that we review and comment on bond issues. Jeanette?
That's correct. That's correct. We had it penciled in as an agenda item with our March 25th board meeting. The terms had not been submitted at that time, so we had to schedule a special meeting. And that is the purpose of this meeting, is to conduct that board statutory required review.
Well, I'm thinking, I didn't know what the timing of the bond sale was, so I apologize. I didn't realize everybody was planning to go to the market next week, close to this week.
Yeah.
So, but I would just think that both the city and the control board, do some more further evaluation and analysis on the distinction between, the cost savings versus the number of the projects that we have on the capital program, as well as the impact on what the federal relief bill is going to have on a whole host of things, including credit ratings and projects as well as the size of the deal. I mean, do we have time to delay the bond sale, or are all the financial advisors that are in the group saying that this is the month to do it?
Andy, this is Greg. So because we have the ban outstanding, we have to go to the market and pay that off by the 28th. So that's really the big.
Oh, that's okay. So that's what's pushing the deal. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean normally historically we go to the market in April. One of the reasons is because the budget comes out in May, and obviously we'd have to update all the financial information. But that's not the only reason. But the biggest reason this year is because we have the $34 million ban outstanding.
Okay. When do you guys?
So you're saying, Greg, there is none. Pardon?
Donna, when is the expectation? And believe me, again, I'm working off of probably some ignorance here, but when is the expectation to receive these federal funds?
May, middle of May, the cash, but we have, we're still waiting for guidelines on how to spend them.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Ben Swanekamp. If I can jump in, we had a call last Friday with some Treasury officials, and they said the transfer and guidance is probably going to come out at the later portion of the 60-day required window for money to be sent down to municipalities. So, yeah, it'll probably be on the later end of things.
Which is May, correct?
Yep, that would be that 60 days out would be that mid-May time frame.
Yeah. So for us, we have to submit the budget, as Greg says, by May 1st.
And Donna, correct me if the initial amount guidance was that it was sewer, water, and broadband projects, right? There was no, streets type projects that were allowed in the initial.
Well, and in the initial one, our conversations with our delegation has said that it might be a little open up a little more. But once again, we don't have definite on that.
Yeah, so while there is unfettered allowance for spending on water, sewer, and broadband, the other portion of the language could say that, for instance, if the city forewent any kind of infrastructure spending because of the pandemic, any of the money that would have been spent, if not for the pandemic, would be eligible for any expenses, including road work or other types of infrastructure outside of those three categories.
Can I ask a question of the Comptroller's office?
Absolutely.
As a result of the timing of issuing these bonds, did your financial advisor suggest that perhaps because of the relief package that you go back to the rating agencies and see what the impact would be on your bond ratings?
This is Greg. So we did have the rating agencies did ask us questions regarding the rating for this issuance, and the rating did not change from 2 months ago with the refunding.
That was 2 months ago, though, right?
No, but we did have a brief. They submitted questions that we answered those questions related to, any additional questions. And one of the questions was obviously the Rescue Act funds. But since the guidance is not out there, but the rating did not change.
So they're aware of this significant amount of, and believe me, Donna, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, am I reading it? $352 million?
Correct. 170 or half of it the first year and half the next year. Correct.
Okay. And Greg, the rating agencies were aware of that dollar amount, or were they looking at the $65 million?
No, they were aware of the $350 million.
Okay. And that's not going to change anything?
It did not change anything.
Not even an outlook?
No, the outlook it stayed the same.
Yeah, we argued that. Thank you.
From Moody's and S&P.
Well, then I just get rid of those two rating agencies and go to Fitch.
No, that's what we said. They're getting all this money. They should have changed their ratings.
They absolutely should have. I'd stop paying them. That was levity, folks, okay? I don't hear anybody laughing on this call.
Yeah. This is Director Floss. Greg, did any cities get their ratings changed, or did they make just a general assumption that everything was going to stay the same, or was Buffalo singled out?
I'm not sure if anybody's ratings changed. I mean, obviously the rescue package was signed, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm not sure if it had any impact on anybody else's rating.
Well, I think you should have a nice long discussion with Rick Gansey about that.
He's our financial counsel.
Financial advisor, yes.
Advisor, sorry.
Any further questions or comments?
Well, this is Andy again. I apologize for overcrowding.
No, not at all.
Does anybody else agree that perhaps there should be another updated analysis performed or compared with for both the city and with PFM?
Well, once again, you have to take it to council, and the mayor has to file the certificate of necessity for that.
To do
in addition,
analysis?
Oh, no. But to actually, if we were to go with the BFSA?
I just wonder if both entities should just get together again and perform analysis based on updated, information and the market.
I mean, we are...
Director Sanfilippo, this is Jeanette Robe, Executive Director. What I typically request from our financial advisors when we've done a preliminary assessment like this is it's kind of a retroactive analysis. So I have them rerun it as of the day of the sale to see, based on that particular day, how the market performed, just to kind of be able to evaluate the decisions and kind of use it as guidance for future decision making.
Well, certainly. I don't disagree with the concept. What I would rather see now, based on a lot more updated factors relating to marketability in current interest rates, what would the difference be between the debt service comparisons? And why was the city at 40,000 and PFM's at 73 or whatever? But then again, it goes back to the timing of the issuance of the bonds, which, according to Greg, now you got a $34 million bond anticipation note that's due at the end of the month. That would be pretty much restrictive on the timing of doing another analysis.
Plus, I mean, we are set the price on Thursday, the 15th.
So is the decision supposed to be made today by the Fiscal Stability Authority as to who's going to do the sale?
No. Our decision is the city, so what we try to do is to give a fair report on the financial advantages or disadvantages, and then they make their determination. Certainly, in the recent past, that determination has always been to go ahead and issue it, the city go ahead and issue it itself. One of the things that's a little different here, no matter which amount you consider, is that there is a fairly significant financial advantage of the BFSA issuing the bond.
This is Director Floss. I guess I'm a little bit more concerned not about whether or not the BFSA or the city are doing the bonds, but the impact of not having an adjusted guidance when you issue them, and whether or not that in itself is going to cost additional money, and have the city have a higher interest rate than it should have given all of this new information. So that would be a concern of mine unless somewhere along the line this adjustment is not happening with everybody, and therefore the market's taking it into consideration already.
Okay, anything further from the city?
Well, Niels, what did you just ask?
I asked if
further
there's
questions?
Anything further from the city or from the directors.
This is Director Jeanette. It appears there is a clock ticking on this, and we may not be able to by the what was the deadline? The 28th. We have to offer. Was that the number? Was that the date? The 28th of April.
The 28th of April is when the ban matures. It takes about 2 weeks to close, so they're actually scheduled to price it on the 15th of April, this Thursday.
Right. Well, I don't know how we, in that very short time window, we'd be able to make more reliable, up-to-date determinations, such as does the infusion of rescue dollars, does that change a bond's outlook, or rather the borrower's outlook? I don't know if we can. I think that question is super relevant, but I don't see how we can possibly get that information and use that information in building a decision. So if we do go ahead with the sale, or that is to say, if the city approves it and the bond is offered, my goodness, I hope, as Mr. Filippo said, we find out from we find out if the presence of the rescue dollars have any impact whatsoever on outlook. And secondly, I'm how should I put it? I'm troubled at that gap between the savings analysis by PFM and by Cities Bond Council. That wasn't a small amount. That was about 80%. Our estimate was about 80% higher, the savings, than Cities Bond Council. So I hope that if and when this bond is offered, we we regroup and study, for me, what the hell explains the gap in analysis of money to be saved, and what do the rescue dollars do to outlook, for rating agencies. So I hope we do follow up on this. This is not once the door is closed, we walk away. No, I hope we follow up on this.
Director Jurasek, this is Jeanette Rogue. So just to give a little bit more background into the analysis, while I haven't seen the underlying assumptions that were used in the analysis that was conducted by the City of Buffalo Comptroller's Office Financial Advisor, the city's financial advisor. I do note this is clearly an estimate. It's not a known. The financial advisors look at the market and what bonds are pricing at, but there's a lot of fluidity and there's a lot of interpretation and there's a lot of flexibility into how something finally prices. Now, historically, our financial advisor has been more conservative in looking at the numbers than the City of Buffalo has been. And the City of Buffalo has been very good at marketing their bonds at a lower rate than what an A plus bond by S&P would typically price on a given day. The City of Buffalo is priced is priced better typically than that. So a lot of this is because it's the difference in the underlying assumptions that are being utilized. So it's not as if one's right and one's wrong, and the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. But these are estimates that are used to forge a decision, and whether you're looking at $440,000 a year or $660,000 a year, I think it's significant enough where it forms the decision. It helps with the decision-making process, understanding that it's just an estimate to help make that decision.
Okay.
Greg, just for clarification, those outstanding bands, you're taking out long-term now, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, excuse me, where do we want to go from here? Our function is basically to analyze and comment on the proposed bond. Do we want to request any further information, or how do we want to go here?
I think, as Greg said, the city's rating will not change much, since they did take into account the receipt of the federal stimulus.
How long do you have to spend it?
2024, December 2024.
Are you allowed to spend it on any outstanding bonds?
I don't believe so. But once again, I do not have the guidance on that.
Right, and certainly the early guidance seems to have limited its availability for reduction, for an increase in the carryover of that the city is going to have.
Is there any?
It doesn't really change that, does it?
Is there any attempt by the city to rescind any of the authorized but unissued bonds that they have?
The authorized, they're going through those, yes.
They're going through those, right, Donna?
Yes, they are. And then Greg Smansky closed out some accounts, working with the departments. What did you have, Greg, about $3 million this year going toward our cost?
Yes, that's correct. And we did rescind, I think there was 4 authorized and issued in maybe November, December that were rescinded. The biggest one was the remaining authorized and issued from the Bailey Avenue Bridge project that has been completed. So,
okay, without reviewing totally the capital budget, how much do you think, or do you estimate, or how much is included in there for infrastructure? Other than the districts. I know the districts are $300,000 apiece, and about $2.7 million. Is there any other infrastructure projects that are in the capital program?
Yes, there's citywide programs.
Okay, now those can be taken out by the relief bill, I believe.
We don't know what they're able to do on that. If it's prior money because you couldn't spend it, and, you know, we are still putting together a program of how we are spending the money.
Okay, because I think and everybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that those relief funds can be dedicated or designated towards infrastructure improvements. So that would be a way to downsize, perhaps, the size of the borrowing. But then again, I think I respect everybody knowing that the timing involved may not be available in order to modify the budget downward.
And I think that's some of the problem, you know, because we also, you know, there's a certain time frame to get streets done on an annual basis because of the weather.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have any further questions or comments? Okay, then hearing none, this concludes the meeting of the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Nay. Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.